Castellano was under indictment in the federal government's case against the leadership of New York's 5 mafia families, known as the Commission. He was also currently on trial and out on $2 million bail in a car theft and murder case.
Paul Castellano, also known as Big Paulie, was a prominent figure in the American Mafia, best known as the head of the powerful Gambino crime family from the mid-1970s until his assassination in 1985. Born in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, New York, on June 26, 1915, Constantino Paul Castellano's life would be anything but ordinary. He grew up in a family with Italian roots. His parents, Giuseppe and Concetta Castellano, née Casata, were immigrants from Italy, with his father working as a butcher and having early ties to the Mangano crime family, an organization that would later evolve into the powerful Gambino crime family. Leaving formal education in the 8th grade, Castellano learned both butchering and the numbers game from his father, gaining skills that would serve as a foundation for his future endeavors. At just 19, Castellano had his first run-in with the law. Arrested in Hartford, Connecticut in 1934 for his involvement in a robbery, he opted to serve his sentence without revealing his partner's identities. This decision cemented his reputation for loyalty within the mob as he upheld the sacred code of silence known as omerta. The Castellano family tree had connections that ran deep in organized crime. Castellano's sister, Catherine, married Carlo Gambino, a man who would later become one of the most influential mob bosses in America. Meanwhile, Castellano himself married his childhood sweetheart Nina Mano in 1937, with whom he would have 4 children. Although unrelated to actor Richard S. Castellano from The Godfather, speculation persisted due to family name recognition, a rumor bolstered by claims from Richard's widow after his passing. Despite his given name, Constantino, or as some sources claim, Costantino, Castellano disliked it, preferring to sign as C. Paul Castellano. By the 1940s, he joined the ranks of the Mangano family, eventually earning the title of caporegime, or captain, under the leadership of Albert Anastasia, who succeeded the original boss, Vincent Mangano. Castellano's career took a dramatic turn in 1957 when he attended the infamous Appalachian Meeting, a gathering of top mafia figures from across the country. The meeting was interrupted by a police raid, and Castellano was one of 61 high-ranking mobsters taken into custody. Staying true to his principles, Castellano refused to cooperate with authorities, earning himself a year-long sentence for contempt of court. Shortly after, he was convicted of conspiracy to withhold information, receiving a 5-year sentence, though this was later overturned on appeal. While he remained embedded in the world of organized crime, Castellano saw himself as more than just a mobster. He aimed to be a businessman. Leveraging his criminal connections, he acquired and turned various enterprises into ostensibly legitimate businesses, although many still profited from their association with the mob. Using his butchery background, Castellano launched Dial Poultry, a wholesale poultry distribution company that serviced 300 butchers in New York City. Castellano's business tactics were hardly conventional. He pressured clients, including major grocery chains like Key Food and Waldbaum's, into buying his products, using intimidation to secure a steady flow of income. As Castellano's influence within the Gambino family grew, so did his wealth and involvement in the construction industry. His son, Philip, became the president of Scaramix Concrete Corporation, which nearly monopolized the concrete supply in Staten Island. Through this enterprise, Castellano played a key role in the Concrete Club, a coalition of contractors selected by the Commission, the Mafia's governing body, to manage high-value construction contracts ranging from $2 million to $15 million. These deals came with a hefty price. Contractors were expected to pay a 2% kickback to the Commission. Further enhancing his empire, Castellano oversaw Gambino control over the Teamsters Union Local, Chapter 282, which provided construction labor for major projects across New York City and Long Island. Through these roles, Castellano held sway over the city's lucrative construction sector, ensuring the Gambino family profited handsomely from New York's building boom. Castellano's influence extended beyond business interests. He was a pivotal player within the Gambino family hierarchy, blending traditional mob operations with a keen sense for enterprise. His ability to build powerful alliances while presenting himself as a legitimate businessman made him a distinctive figure in organized crime. Unlike some mobsters of his era who relished the notoriety of their criminal status. Castellano preferred to operate with the facade of a businessman, carefully cultivating his public image and distancing himself from the violent reputation that typically accompanied mafia figures. However, this approach had its limitations. Castellano's emphasis on business over traditional mob dealings and his desire for greater legitimacy led to tensions within the family. Some members viewed his methods as a betrayal of the organization's roots, preferring the old ways that had defined the mafia for decades. This growing divide hinted at potential fractures within the family, foreshadowing conflicts that would eventually shape Castellano's fate. Through both his business ventures and mafia dealings, Paul Castellano left a lasting legacy that blended the shadowy allure of organized crime with a veneer of respectable entrepreneurship. His life reflects the complex web of loyalty, power, and ambition that characterized New York's mafia underworld, ultimately making him one of the most intriguing figures in American organized crime history. From a young butcher's apprentice to the head of one of the nation's most powerful crime families, Castellano's story reveals a unique blend of ambition, loyalty, and the pursuit of respect, an attempt to bridge two worlds that, despite his efforts, would eventually collide in the most dramatic way. In 1975, Paul Castellano allegedly ordered the murder of his daughter's boyfriend, Vito Borelli, after hearing that Borelli had compared him to Frank Perdue, the well-known owner and spokesperson for Perdue Farms. Borelli's remark was seen as an insult to Castellano's image and authority. According to later court documents, it was revealed in 2004 that Joseph Massino, once the head of the Bonanno crime family and later a government witness, confessed that he personally arranged Borelli's murder as a favor to Castellano. This incident set the tone for Castellano's reign, marked by calculated decisions to maintain both his reputation and control. When Carlo Gambino, head of the Gambino crime family, passed away on October 15, 1976, he named Castellano as his successor instead of his longtime underboss, Agnello Neil Della Croce. Gambino likely chose Castellano due to his preference for low-profile, lucrative white-collar operations over traditional street crimes. At the time, Della Croce was imprisoned on tax evasion charges, which prevented him from contesting Castellano's appointment. Although some family members may have been surprised, Gambino believed that Castellano's business-oriented approach would help the family thrive under increased law enforcement scrutiny. The transition of power was formalized on November 24th, with Della Croce attending the ceremony. Castellano, in a bid to maintain harmony, allowed Della Croce to retain his position as underboss and delegated him to oversee traditional mob activities like loan sharking, extortion, and robbery. However, this arrangement effectively divided the family into two factions: Castellano's faction, operating from Manhattan and favoring white-collar crime, and Della Croce's faction, based in Brooklyn, and more focused on traditional mob activities. Despite the split, Della Croce accepted Castellano's leadership, but tensions simmered beneath the surface as some members questioned Castellano's priorities. In 1978, Castellano allegedly ordered the murder of Nicholas Schibetta, a Gambino family associate whose erratic behavior and public brawls had drawn unwanted attention. Schibetta, who also struggled with drug and alcohol abuse, had reportedly insulted the daughter of George DeSico, a respected member of the family. Before the hit, Castellano instructed DeSico's brother Frank to inform Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano, Schibetta's brother-in-law, about the impending action. Initially enraged, Gravano threatened to retaliate, but he eventually calmed down, accepting that Schibetta's conduct had crossed too many lines. Later that year, Castellano allegedly sanctioned the murder of Gambino capo James Ippolito and his son, James Ippolito Jr. Ippolito Sr. had sought Castellano's permission to eliminate Anthony Gaggi, another capo who he felt was encroaching on his territory. Castellano, while non-committal to Ippolito's request, secretly warned Gaggi of the threat. This led Gaggi, along with his associate Roy DeMeo, to preemptively murder both Ippolito and his son. These actions reinforced Castellano's reputation for dealing ruthlessly with anyone he viewed as a threat to his control. In February 1978, Castellano took another strategic step by forming an alliance with the Westies, a prominent Irish-American gang based in Hell's Kitchen. Castellano saw value in an external group of hitmen who would provide him with muscle without directly implicating the Gambino family. The Westies, on the other hand, sought the protection that alignment with a powerful Italian mob family could offer. The alliance was solidified during a meeting between Castellano and Westies leader James Coonan. According to Mickey Featherstone, a Westies member, Castellano set strict terms for this partnership, advising, "You guys gotta stop acting like cowboys, acting wild, you're going to be with us now. If anyone is going to get killed, you have to clear it with us first." This arrangement brought stability to the Westies and expanded Castellano's influence without drawing direct attention to the Gambino family. Through calculated decisions and alliances, Castellano managed to maintain control over the Gambino family, often opting for strategic partnerships and targeted actions that reinforced his dominance. His approach to leadership was marked by both shrewdness and ruthlessness, ensuring that his authority remained unchallenged even amidst internal rivalries. Paul Castellano, a powerful figure in organized crime, forged strategic alliances to solidify his position and extend his influence. Among these was his connection with the Cherry Hill Gambinos, a group of Sicilian heroin importers and distributors based in New Jersey. Known for their willingness to handle enforcement duties, the Cherry Hill Gambinos provided Castellano with a network of gunmen. Together with another alliance he formed with the Westies, a feared Irish-American gang, Castellano commanded a powerful group of enforcers ready to protect his interests and eliminate any threats. In September 1980, Castellano allegedly sanctioned the murder of his former son-in-law, Frank Amato. Amato was accused of abusing his wife, Connie, who was Castellano's daughter. According to FBI reports, Castellano assigned the ruthless Roy DeMeo to handle the situation. DeMeo reportedly murdered Amato, dismembered his body, and disposed of the remains in the ocean. Castellano's ability to order such a grisly retribution illustrates the ruthless control he maintained over his personal and professional matters, with loyalty to family taking a lethal form. Around the same time, Castellano's influence extended into labor disputes as well. In 1981, a businessman named Frank Perdue, who was involved in the infamous 1975 Borelli murder case, allegedly approached Castellano for assistance. Perdue sought Castellano's help to thwart a unionization effort at one of his company's facilities in Virginia. Although Perdue later claimed no final deal was reached, Castellano's involvement indicates his willingness to offer his underworld resources to those who sought them, further entrenching his power across legitimate and illicit domains. As Castellano's power grew, so did his appetite for luxury. He commissioned the construction of a sprawling 17-room mansion on Todt Hill in Staten Island. Designed to resemble the White House, the mansion was adorned with Carrara marble, an Olympic-sized pool, and lush English gardens, reflecting Castellano's ambition to live like an American aristocrat. Despite his immense influence, he rarely left this grand residence, relying on his captains to visit and report to him directly. Known for his aloof nature, he conducted his operations from within the mansion, while maintaining a detached and almost royal lifestyle. He even engaged in an affair with his Colombian maid, Gloria Olarte, which only added to the mystique surrounding his private life. Clad in satin and silk dressing gowns, Castellano would leisurely stroll through his mansion, issuing orders as if ruling over an empire. Meanwhile, unrest was brewing within the Gambino family. John Goody, a protege of Castellano's longtime associate Agnello Della Croce, grew increasingly frustrated with Castellano's leadership. To Gotti and others, Castellano appeared disconnected from the realities of street-level operations, preferring to revel in wealth rather than navigate the gritty side of organized crime. Gotti also had a personal grievance. He felt Castellano was too controlling over financial matters, including the profits Gotti earned from hijacking operations at John F. Kennedy International Airport. Moreover, Gotti was allegedly involved in drug dealing, a venture Castellano had strictly prohibited within the family. Castellano's disdain for drug trafficking and his controlling nature intensified the tension between him and Gotti. In January 1983, Castellano allegedly ordered the murder of Roy DeMeo, who was found dead in the trunk of his Cadillac. DeMeo's death marked another grim chapter in Castellano's legacy, signaling his continued commitment to eliminate anyone he perceived as a threat. Castellano's control seemed impenetrable, but that same year, the FBI made a breakthrough that would mark the beginning of his downfall. Federal agents, suspecting Castellano's involvement in organized crime activities, managed to install hidden listening devices inside his Staten Island mansion while he was vacationing in Florida. They disabled his security system, drugged his guard dogs, and planted the bugs in key areas of the house. These devices allowed federal investigators to gather a wealth of evidence that would eventually implicate Castellano in numerous crimes. By August 1983, the stakes were raised even higher when Angelo Ruggiero and Gene Gotti, both Gambino family members, were arrested on heroin distribution charges. Much of the evidence used against them came from recorded conversations in Ruggiero's home. Castellano demanded access to the transcripts of these tapes, sparking tension with Ruggiero, who refused to hand them over. This defiance only deepened Castellano's distrust of Gotti, threatening to demote him if the recordings were not surrendered. Castellano's authority was facing unprecedented challenges, and his legal troubles continued to mount. In March 1984, Castellano was indicted on federal racketeering charges that included drug trafficking, extortion, theft, and even murder. Released on a $2 million bail, Castellano faced significant legal battles that would put his empire and reputation at risk. The following year, in 1985, his troubles escalated further. On February 25th, Castellano, along with numerous other mob bosses, was arrested again, this time as part of a massive racketeering case known as the Mafia Commission Trial. Once more he posted bail, this time set at $3 million. By July, he was indicted yet again on additional charges, including loan sharking and tax evasion related to his unreported income from illegal activities. During this period, Castellano's public image took a significant blow when car thief Vito Arena testified that Castellano was the head of a stolen car ring and linked him to several murders. The family itself was fracturing under the weight of legal pressures and internal discord. When Della Croce, Castellano's longtime confidant and underboss, died of cancer on December 2, 1985, Castellano's decision-making reached a critical misstep. He chose not to attend Della Croce's wake, which many family members saw as a disrespectful slight. In the wake of Della Croce's passing, Castellano appointed Thomas Bilotti, a close ally, but with limited experience in diplomacy, as his new underboss. Rumors circulated that Castellano intended to dismantle John Gotti's crew, further inciting Gotti's resentment. Meanwhile, another prominent figure, Sammy Gravano, suggested taking drastic measures, proposing that Castellano and Bilotti be killed. Plans for the hit began to take shape when Gotti learned from Frank DeSico that Castellano planned a meeting at Sparks Steakhouse on December 16, 1985. Gotti saw this as an opportunity and decided to make his move. On that fateful night, Gotti and his associates waited outside Sparks Steakhouse. When Castellano and Bilotti arrived, they were ambushed and shot down in a bold attack that marked the end of Castellano's reign. This dramatic assassination closed the final chapter of Paul Castellano's life, illustrating both the ruthlessness and the volatility of organized crime's inner workings. In death, as in life, Castellano's legacy remained etched in violence, secrecy, and the relentless pursuit of power. On a chilly Monday evening, December 16, 1985, Paul Castellano arrived with Thomas Bilotti for a meeting at Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, unaware of what awaited him. Around 5:26 p.m., as Castellano stepped out of the car at the restaurant's entrance, a team of gunmen ambushed him. The shooters, reportedly led by Salvatore Scala, Edward Lino, and John Carneglia, closed in quickly. Backup shooters, including Ruggiero, Dominic Pizzonia, and Tony Rampino, were strategically positioned nearby as reinforcement. Across the street, John Gotti and his associate Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano watched the scene unfold from their parked car, orchestrating every move from a safe distance. The ambush was swift. As Castellano exited the car, shots rang out, striking him multiple times in what appeared to be a precise and calculated attack. Rumors circulated that Carneglia delivered the fatal shot to Castellano's head. Bilotti, the loyal driver and bodyguard, was also shot as he attempted to exit from his side of the car. In a final, chilling gesture, Gotti reportedly drove past the scene to survey the aftermath, ensuring that the intended target had been eliminated. In the days following the murder, Castellano was interred at Moravian Cemetery on Staten Island. His reputation as a crime boss led the Archdiocese of New York to deny him a traditional Catholic funeral, a rare decision that underscored the notoriety of his lifestyle and his death. Just 2 weeks after Castellano's assassination, Gotti claimed the title of boss within the Gambino crime family. The bold, unapproved killing didn't sit well with Vincent Gigante, head of the Genovese crime family. Furious at the breach of Mafia protocol, Gigante sought to eliminate Gotti, enlisting the support of Anthony Corallo, the Lucchese family boss. Their plan culminated on April 13, 1986, when a car bomb intended for Gotti detonated outside a social club in Bensonhurst. However, the explosive only claimed the life of Frank DeSico, a Gambino family underboss and Gotti's close associate, leaving Gotti unharmed. Years later, in late 1990, Gotti's crime empire began to unravel when he was arrested by the FBI on racketeering charges. Following a lengthy legal battle and with Gravano turning government witness, Gotti was convicted on April 2, 1992, for a string of criminal activities, including Castellano's murder. This conviction marked a pivotal moment as the infamous mob boss received a life sentence in federal prison on June 23. Gotti remained incarcerated until his death from throat cancer in 2002. Despite the attention and public interest in Castellano's assassination, Gotti was the only one convicted for the killing, leaving lingering questions about the others involved. Castellano's legacy in the American Mafia is complex. Known for his lavish lifestyle and interest in legitimate-looking businesses, he helped bring a more corporate approach to organized crime. He aimed to move the Gambino family away from street-level crime, focusing on sophisticated rackets that kept the family wealthy and less visible. However, his leadership was controversial among his underlings, who saw him as out of touch and overly concerned with appearances. His infamous mansion on Staten Island, dubbed the White House by associates, became a symbol of his detachment from the rank-and-file members of the family. Castellano's impact was cemented in Mafia history through his dramatic downfall. In 1985, John Gotti, a rising figure in the Gambino family who opposed Castellano's leadership, orchestrated his assassination. Castellano was shot outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, a highly public hit that attracted media attention and marked a significant turning point in organized crime. His death illustrated the internal divisions within the Mafia and foreshadowed the decline of the traditional hierarchical structure of organized crime in America. Castellano's legacy is seen in his contribution to the Mafia's involvement in business racketeering and white-collar crime, as well as the turbulence his leadership caused within the Gambino family. His death demonstrated both the ruthlessness of mob politics and the challenges of adapting to a changing criminal landscape in the 1980s, leaving an indelible mark on Mafia history.
Castellano was the godfather of the reputed head of New York's most powerful organized crime family. But now the hunt is on for his killers, and the police are trying to figure out what the rub-out means to the underworld. We have team coverage of the Castellano murder, beginning with Chris Borgen, who has the latest on the search for evidence.
Big Paulie Castellano's spectacular execution was a grisly piece of street theater that has left authorities with dozens of unanswered questions and apparently few leads. Federal agents and police believe that the three hitmen capped off their seamless contract with a slick getaway in a waiting car. One source said that auto had the New Jersey license plate number ABM43Z, but today police discounted that theory.
That plate number was taken from a car that was seen at about 7 o'clock at night. And we don't expect that car will show up as being involved in this instance at all.
And so while certain investigators are looking for the men who pulled the trigger, trying to figure them out, there are other investigators who are looking for the man who invited Paulie Castellano to come to this location. That location was in front of Sparks' popular steakhouse on East 46th Street. But the restaurant's owner isn't certain Castellano was headed there.
I have no idea. Truthfully, we did not have a reservation, so we'd have no prior knowledge whatsoever.
But the deeper question tonight is why? Why Castellano and his bodyguard, Thomas Bellotti, were rubbed out? Clearly, Castellano's image as an all-powerful Don had suffered greatly because of his recent indictment and trial on international car theft charges, plus an upcoming separate trial as a member of organized crime's ruling commission.
If you took a poll of the people within his family and in the mob in general, they would find him to be a liability rather than an asset, to want him dead rather than alive.
And some authorities believe that Castellano and the hand-picked Bellotti were victims of young Gambino family Turks who were allied with the late Aniello Della Croce, who was second in command behind Castellano.
Who is next in line with Paulie Castellano going down?
Well, I would say probably somebody from the Della Croce side of the family.
The name Mr. Gotti comes up every so often, 46 years of age. What do you think he might be?
I would presume that he's a reasonable candidate.
But for the time being at least, New York City police view the rub-outs as potentially disastrous public hazards.
Well, ordinarily it's done in a more a quiet place, quiet area, rather than the middle of Manhattan, such as that took place. Even Anastasia was shot inside of a barber shop.